angry guy here, and Gen Z is dying, and no one seems to care why. This is really feel good news, and I wanted just to share it with you because it makes me excited and really ecstatic. So, Gen Z, they're passing away rapidly, and no one seems to know why they're passing away. In other news, just to point this out, TikTok just was banned by the House of Representatives. It was something like over 200 to like 60, nays. So it was almost a unanimous vote. So Gen Z, there's the tides are beginning to turn, against them, thankfully, and the writing is on the wall. I said this before, and I'll say it again. Gen Z won't see 30 years. Many of them will not see 30 years. Shout out to shout out to Mild Bill Anderson. How's it going, brother? Shout out, bro. Shout out to Mild. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, there's those scumbags. Those scumbags. They're not going to be here very long, and I take joy in anything that they love going away. So as you guys can see, this is an interesting article. It says more young Americans are passing, and it's not because of the vid. This I think this is a very interesting fact, and it's like I think it's pretty darn cool. I think it's really cool what's happening here. You know, so let's continue reading this because yeah, this is God is good, God is great. So without a thorough and collaborative exploration, we can't know what's control alt deleting us or how to stop it. So they're beginning to panic, and again, it's absolutely incredible. Life insurance actuaries are reporting, guys. Let me tell you, and for those of you that don't know what an actuary is, actuaries are very smart people. I used to work in insurance. I used to work in an insurance, and it was actually pretty interesting because we had these guys named actuaries. I actually thought about becoming an actuary once. It requires a lot of math, but actuaries are kind of like rocket scientists. I know it sounds insane to put it like that, but these are the people that figure out what an exposure should be. So basically, what you should be paying for insurance for, let's say, car insurance, or for work, or for something like if you want health insurance, or if you need insurance to insure you on your job, so workers' compensation. And basically, they look at what your exposure is. So, for example, what if you're a doctor, an engineer, or different kinds of engineer. And life insurance actuaries are reporting that many more people are passing, and still than in the years before, the events of 2020. And while the number of people the number of deletions during the vid had largely occurred among the old and infirm, this new wave is actually hitting prime of life people hard. No one knows precisely what is driving the phenomenon, but there is an inexplainably lack of urgency to find out. A concerted investigation is in order. And you know that this is actually very serious when the people who are reporting this are the actuaries, because these people are not going to pay. They don't want to spend money. So the insurance companies do not want to spend money to pay to pay if a group of people are passing away. So they're going to try to do everything to avoid having to spend money. And the fact that they're saying that, okay, their data shows these people are passing away, faster than other generations, is very telling. And like I said, it's a great thing to hear. These are not good people, and it was about time. But no one seems to know. No one knows why it's happening, and no one seems to care. So deletions among young Americans documented in employee life insurance claims should alone set off alarms. Among working people 35 to 44, a stunning 34% more deleted than expected in the last quarter of 2022, while with above average rates in other working age groups. And what do you put this? Vid claims do not fully explain this. What's interesting about these statistics are, though, that the people passing away the fastest right now in Western society are actually young women between in Gen Zers and young millennials. So these people are actually passing away faster than any other group of people right now. And from 2020 through 2022, there were more excess deletions proportionately among white collar than blue collars. Very intriguing right there. And there was an extreme and sudden increase in worker deletions in the fall of 2021, even as the nation saw precarious drops in vid deletions from a previous occurrence. In the third quarter of 2021, deletions among workers ages 35 to 44 reached a peak of 101%. And then let me see here. In two other prime working age groups, mortality was 79% above expected. But I mean, this is, guys, I really don't care. I really don't care. Like I said, it's wonderful news. These are not good people. So obviously, you have a number of millennials, younger millennials that are seeing this peak. And as I said, the excess of deletions is actually occurring among Gen Zers, so young women, young Gen Z women, and young Gen Z women and young and millennial women. So older Gen Z women and millennial women. These are the people who have the highest mortality right now. They're actually passing away faster than the women who were born in 1928. So it's almost 100 years. Again, this is really wonderful stuff. I'm very happy to hear this. It's good that it's really good. Let's see. Miles says, I'm 62, never had kids, never wanted them. I'm also glad I'm not dating now. Damn, man, I see that fire in the background. You're living the life. Guys, be like Mild Bill Anderson. Be like Mild Bill Anderson. Don't get married. Don't have kids. Live your best life. That's that. What, you think I was gonna cry? Don't have kids. Let's see here. Christ is king. I do not believe, but I back all Christian values. Yeah, so I agreed. I am not a Christian, but I do. I am not a Christian, but I am a believer. hmm Pasta says my money is on vapes. Vape is not enough. Vape is a part of it. It's the vape. It's the makeup. It's the diet. This is one of the reasons why I don't like Gen Z. All they do is vape, do illicit substances, smoke weed, get drunk, be lazy, steal. I don't know. I'm like, they're very dishonest people. So why is anyone gonna really cry for these group of scumbags? Like I say, it's a good thing. It's kind of like the trash taking itself out. I know it sounds harsh to say it like that, but they don't care about us. So why would we care about them? They came into this world and they basically threw their crap around, and this is how it is. Lone says, I'm Gen Z. Am I part of the problem? I think there's some decent Gen Zers out there. And, I consider these members, I call them Gen X too. Because if you learn from Gen X were, this is one of the hard things that I go through. Gen X were decent people. Overall, they're not all perfect. Because a lot of the older Gen Xers, they had the chance to try to do something, and they went along with a lot of the nonsense from the boomer generation. I'm not blaming all of the boomers. As a generation, the boomers were terrible. As a generation, they were one of the worst generations in in American history. But there are some decent members of the boomer generation. I don't like their generation as a whole, but if you're a practical person, if you're a boomer, and you say, yeah, my generation messed up, you know, as long as you take accountability and you're not like one of the boomers who are like, don't blame me. If you're like, no, my generation is full of crap. We messed up. We didn't fix the problems, so we passed it on to our kids. And you take accountability, and you don't say things like, like the millennials need to start stepping up and take responsibility for what the boomers have done. Then I respect that. But if you're not going to take accountability for any of it, then no, I don't respect you. So, like I said, I'm not a fan of the boomers, but if they're decent boomers who take accountability, then I respect that. If you're a Gen Zer and you take personal accountability for yourself, you don't blame others. Like there was one Gen Zer who came to the chat, and he basically, and there were people like, he came to the comments, and there were people like, oh, stop picking on Gen Z, and he said no. Gen Zers need to take accountability. They chose to do these things. They chose to use illicit substances. They chose to vape all the time. They chose to smoke weed all the time. They chose to get drunk all the time. They chose not to sleep properly. They chose not to listen to their parents. They chose to be in the streets. Okay, Gen Z made these choices for themselves, saying that, oh, it's because they were given iPads. Who gave, like, I've literally had this argument with Gen Zers, and this is one thing they always throw back in my face. They're like, "You raised us, bro. Why? How are you blaming us for this? You're a bunch of iPad kids terrorizing society. Yeah, and who gave us those iPads? Okay, so what if we didn't give you any iPads? What if we didn't give you electronics? We didn't give you cell phones. We didn't give you crap. Okay, nothing. Like, we made your lives a living hell and kept you stressed out all the time. We gave you the lives that we had growing up, which was pretty much crap. While our parents were enjoying themselves, we were lucky if we had Scholastic magazine. All right, something that you guys didn't even wouldn't even appreciate today because most of you can barely read. And it's like, imagine if we had treated you like that. You guys would be traumatized right now. You wouldn't even be able to function. I mean, at this moment, most of you would already be on Social Security disability because you have zero resilience. I made a poll about this recently. Actually, it was today, where I said that millennials have been in survival mode from the moment they were born. And it's true. I talked about, like, from the moment most millennials were born, it was literally the crack epidemic in the 80s, then it was the homeless epidemic in the 90s, then it was Y2K before the 2000s even got started, then it was 911 in 2001, and then after that, it was Afghanistan, Iraq, well, correction, Afghanistan, WMDs, then Iraq, then the Great Recession. Then there was the dark age of the internet started. Okay, and then, and of course, there was all the other nonsense happening in between there and then. Let's not forget about the vid era, which we're still tackling. And then, and then there's the things that happened between Russia and another country that shall not be spoken of. And we're now back in the Middle East, where there's a whole bunch of things brewing. And let's not forget about, a president you have a president in office who shakes hands with dead people and can't remember can't remember if some of his kids are still with us or not. I'm just saying, like, from the moment millennials stepped foot out here, it's been a living nightmare for a lot of them. And me, I'm a Zennial, so I'm born right between the millennials and Gen X. I grew up with many Gen Xers. I worked with most Gen Xers. Most of my friends were Gen Xers, and I mean, that was Gen X was my childhood. So I'll be 41 years old this year. So it's hard for me. It is absolutely hard for me. I could easily be I often like to say, like, I'm too young to be a parent of Gen Z, but that's a lie. I could have easily had a Gen Zer. Even at age 25, I could have a 15, 16-year old right now if I had a kid at 25 years old, which is, even today, that's kind of weird, like, oh my gosh, you had a kid at 25. I could have a 20-year-old right now. In fact, a girl that I went to school with, and she's evidently she has her doctorate now. She has like she has like a 20-year-old. So it's not odd. Obviously, I could have been the parents. I had a friend who was a few years younger than me, and he has like 18 and 19. He has like he definitely has a 20-year-old now. 20, she's like 20, 21 years old. 20, 21. He had her when he was in his teens. So yeah, I could have been a parent of one of the miserable Gen Zers. But regardless, it's like, as a generation, they're scumbags. They're terrible, terrible people. If you're a decent person, if you're a Gen Zer, but you're a decent person, and you're not, and, like, you learn from Gen X, because Gen X didn't. It's not that Gen X gave you everything. They just didn't put their hands on their kids. Like, listen to me. If you can't raise kids without having to, physically, put your hands on them, then there's an issue. There's an issue with that. You shouldn't have to be able. Listen. You can teach your children to be respectful, to have self control. You don't need to do these things. It's about the mind of the child. It's not about using physical correction. If your children are not listening to you, there's a larger issue at hand. why they're not listening. Okay? A lot of the times it's not something that you haven't done, it's a problem with society. And that means that you need to control the information that is getting into the minds of your children. It doesn't mean that you take away their cell phone. It means that you need to raise your damn kids. You need to sit them down and you need to teach them about the world. You need to let them know that there is a fight for information. There's a fight for their brains to control how they think, what they see, and they will suffer in life. You need to share your stories with them. You need to sit your kids down and let them know that living hell they're going to face in life. You need to let them know like that that if you've been homeless, you need to tell them what homelessness is like. You need to tell them about weed. You need to say, yeah, you think that weed is cool. Well, listen, here's what happened when daddy did weed, and let them know how you had a psychedelic trip and ended up in the loony bin. Or better yet, sleeping in an alley. You found yourself sleeping in an alley with no money, no keys, no cards, no phone, because you just basically you decided to go and do that. You need to talk to your kids. You have to let your kids know from your life experience. A lot of y'all are like, oh, I'm too ashamed, or I don't need to tell my kids about that. You don't want to tell your kids about the bad stuff that you've done and the experience you've had, so that your kids can go out there into the world and then have the exact same experiences. You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. In the UK and many European countries, your children, for example, your children, you're the one who would give them a drink. For example, the drinking age is usually lower, so you let your kid have a beer. You take them to a restaurant and you want your kid to have a beer. Like, okay, here's a beer, drink this. It's important that you are the first person to give your children alcohol. All right, because if you give your kid a beer and they start acting up after you give them a beer, then you can know very quickly that, yeah, my kid can't handle alcohol. You give them two beers and they start to become onset on it's 18 in the UK. I don't know. Maybe they raised the drinking age. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's problematic. It's problematic. You're supposed to be able to give your kid a beer and watch how they behave. If you figure out they can't handle it, you know, when it comes to like smoking a, what do you call it, some bud, you're supposed to be the one to sit down and have that with your kid. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you tell them, listen, if you want to smoke, that's fine, but you're going to do it with me. And you sit your kid down and you let them burn. All right, sip on a beer or whatever. You're not going to smoke yourself. Sip on a beer, you know, and let your kid burn. The reason why you're doing this is because you're going to be there to watch their behavior, because you need to make sure that they can handle themselves. All right. You have to be. I'm practical. I'm a different. See, that's why I told you that's the Gen X in me. That's the Gen X in me. That's how Gen X is much more of a practical group of people. If you when it comes to the hub, you sit down and you tell your kids, like, stay off the hub, and you explain to them why they need to stay off the hub, and you tell them that there's 50-something-year-old men that are still doing that can't have that basically they're sitting at work and they have one screen is dedicated to the hub, and they're just basically watching the hub while they're working, and they don't want to end up like these dudes, wasting their money on this type of stuff. You teach them about female nature. You teach them about self-control. You teach them about the consequences of not having self-control. You teach them about what happens if they don't learn how to manage their money. They're going to end up homeless. You talk about what homelessness is like. You give them real life lessons, practicals. You tell them about life, all right? You be honest with them. They're going to remember this when they entered the world, regardless if they listen to you or not. They go out into the world and they start experiencing things, and life is the best teacher. But the moment they get stung, they're gonna go, "Oh crap, Dad told me not to do this." At least they'll have. And so when you tell them not to do this, and then you also tell them what to do if they do it. So for example, you say, well, listen, if you smoke too much pot, and you start to have a psychedelic episode, here's what you're going to do. You're gonna want to call the ambulance. You might even want to feel like, like your face is. Listen, you're gonna First off, you're gonna start taking deep breaths. Okay, you're not going to die. You're gonna take deep breaths. This is the reason why you want to do it with your kids. You want to be there when it happens. Take deep breaths. You're gonna drink water. Okay, you're gonna drink water. You're gonna flush it out of your system. Okay, you're not going to panic. You're not going to panic. I understand if you feel like you're panicking, just take Three deep breaths. Breathe. Take three deep breaths. If you can call dad, call dad. I'm here for you, all right? I'm going to talk to you. I'm a different kind of guy. I'm not going to have kids, but I'd be a banging parent. All right? I'm better than, listen to me, I'd be one of the best parents in the whole world because I'm real. I'm practical. That's Gen X. Gen X is a practical generation. Gen X is a very realistic generation. Me, I'm here. I'm just basically going on right now, enjoying myself, and I haven't been checking the chat, of course. And then, oh gosh, like people are crying about money, like in the chat, like Gen X is passing. Yeah, not Gen X. Gen X is living large. Gen X is living good. It's the Zedians that are passing away. Let me see here. Desmond says, does anyone in Gen Z even know how to camp? Of course not. Of course not. They're a bunch of they're a bunch of good for nothings. They're a bunch of good for nothings. One side says I'm Gen X and I see this like the old footballers and injury 1960s footballers kick the leather ball with no injury and work too. Modern athletes have heart issues just running. It is what it is. It is what it is. And we have, there are obviously ideas why that's happening. Let's see here. Desmond says we are the same generation, and here I am retired at 42. That's because you did things. Well, Desmond, you did. Listen to me. You made different. You listen. You're 1 year older than I am. I'll be 41 this year. But obviously, you made different decisions. A lot of millennials, a lot of blue collar guys, people who went into blue collar work or didn't waste their time in college. They retired. They're able to retire now. A lot of millennials got caught up in that absolute nonsense of go to college and spend $200,000 for multiple degrees so that you can go and get a job working making $50,000 a year if you're lucky. Let's see here. Desmond said, if I even had a kid right now at 42, they would be out of high school by the time I'm 60. Yeah, I feel like that too. It's like, what the heck would I be doing? Like at this age, you know, having a kid. Eh, eh. You see here. Marco says, as a millennial, I no longer trust the government. I only hold real currency now. Honestly, me personally, like more and more people are just holding land. They're getting land. They're putting their money into something tangible, and I think that's what's going to be happening more and more as the economy goes downhill. Inflation continues to rapidly rise. What you have to consider is this: as inflation rises and the buying power of the dollar decreases, the only way to preserve the actual spending power of your money is to transfer it into something tangible. That could be, and that's in physical property. Land is one of the best investments you can make. You know, real estate where you're purchasing real estate that you're able to rent to others. That you purchase something very cheap, and then you create value in that, and then you're able to rent that out and make, as a rental investment, and then you're making passive income from that. That's another example. That's what more people are going to be doing. Cryptocurrency, again, crypto is actually tangible. Crypto is something tangible because you physically own your cryptocurrency. You don't even own the money. For example, guys, if you destroy a dollar bill, if you tear up money, if you destroy coins, they can throw you in jail. They can throw you in jail. Many people don't understand it. It is illegal to destroy paper money. It is so. If it's illegal to destroy paper money, do you actually own it? You don't. You don't actually own it. The government is essentially just loaning it to you. Think about the logistics of this. You don't own the money that's in your wallet because that money is just a representation of wealth that is being loaned to you by the US government. The fiat currency that we have, we don't physically own it. All right? That money is being loaned to us by the US government as a representation of the wealth that they owe us. It's a crazy concept. When it comes to cryptocurrency, you can destroy cryptocurrency. You can destroy cryptocurrency, and they can't do anything to you. And they cannot print more Bitcoin. So regardless if it goes down in value, it will always retain some value as long as there are people who are willing to use it as a means of bartering. because that's what money is really there for. It's a means of bartering. We use money for the purpose of bartering. It's so that we don't have to trade like two sheeps, one cow, and and a clock. To get a Mercedes for a used Hyundai. I know it's a perfect example. Like this is how it used to work back in the day before we began using money, coins to represent value. Because before that, we'd have to do things like, okay, well, I have this many loaves of bread and this meat, and I'll trade you that for I'll trade you that for a sweater. You know, come on. Let me see here. And there were people who had to literally figure this out. Like, okay, so the value of this and this is equivalent to this and this. Could you imagine how miserable that was? Those were miserable days, man. Those were miserable days. Miserable, miserable days. I saw someone in this chat saying Gabby, shut up. I'm trying to see who you're talking about. Like Gabby. Who's this Gabby you speak of? Oh my gosh. Awake says do more live streams, bro. Hey, shout out to Awake. I know who you are. Shout out to Awake. He says, I'd be an awesome father as well, but I'm not having kids. It's the people who should have kids that are not having kids. That's the interesting thing about it. Tara Basement says this channel needs mods to keep out the trolls. That will get this channel. Okay, yeah. So, oh, Gabby says Gen Z can't make fire. Yeah, no, they really can't. They can't. They can't really do anything. Gabby says blue collar workers are the smartest people in the world. Practical knowledge, absolute agreement. Why are you guys pissed off? Why are you guys upset with Gabby for? What did Gabby do? They seem to be making sense. Look, I'm looking through the comments. Like you guys are furious. Some of you guys are furious, but so far, like what I saw, Gabby seems to make sense. But yeah, let me read some more of these comments. Okay. Desmond says the only regret I have is the fact that I didn't invest in Apple when it first came out. I would have been a lot more richer than I am now. Yeah, you know what, dude? We can always regret. Warren Buffett regrets some of the ways he's invested as well. Like he figures he would be a lot richer right now if he had done things differently as well. For example, Berkshire Hathaway, he actually regrets like investing in it. And if he actually explains how he screwed up with that whole investment, like they were originally not even like an investing firm, maybe it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But you can't cry over spilt milk, because you learn along the way, and you just be grateful for what you have. Awake says Gen Z couldn't light a fire for their life. They couldn't light a fire, change a tire. They can barely wipe their own butts. In fact, many of them can't wipe their own butts because they have terrible hygiene. Tara says Gen X would use the internet to learn more skills. I'm doing it now, born in 1969. That's really how it is. Like for us guys, I don't know if you guys are noticing it, but the people who are doing anything right now, people who are building technology, the people who are making advancements, the people who are making the best YouTube videos teaching people how to do other things, these are all old people. Like you've got dudes with gray hairs on here right now. Like I like to watch Digital Foundry. You got some old dudes on Digital Foundry, like old dudes on Digital Foundry. And these guys are like they understand the technology in and out, and they're still making advancements and innovations and doing comparisons. It's crazy. Like Gen Z, they're dumb. They're dumb. Gen Z is not bright at all. They're not very intelligent people. They didn't pay attention in school. Gen Alpha can't read or write at all. They're feral. I mean, like I said, and then Gen Beta, they're the generation that comes after Gen Alpha. They're going to start being born in like 2025. They need to, and I've said this already. Many of these people many Gen Alphas will never work a normal job in their entire lives. They're going to be a prison generation, because they can't read, they can't write, and and they're coming from single mother households, many of them. So those are the precursors for a prison population. So many of them are good. They're very, their behavior is atrocious. They're, getting, police officers are being called to come and control them because they have no self control. So you don't need to be a genius to see that there's a serious issue with Gen Alpha. It's going to be a large prison population, between psych wards, institutionalizations, and institutionalizations and incarcerations. It's just going to be a lot of that with these good for nothings. And many of you are going to say, I blame you, Pikachu. Well, bro, listen, I wasn't, I didn't tell them to behave this way. They chose this, just like Gen Z. They chose this for themselves. And it's like, did they have it hard? Absolutely. Growing up in this era, after the events of 2020, it's been terrible, and a lot of the adults are responsible for this. But at the same time, look at what happened with, look at Gen X and look at like older millennials. Even millennials in general. No one's like saying, oh, feeling sorry for any of us. Basically, that's how life is. Either you deal with it, you deal with the hardships, and you roll with the punches because no one feels bad for you, not even your parents, because they can't relate to you, or that's about it. And these people, they seem to think that they're gonna like get what they want, or they're gonna like tear down the world. Like, good luck with that, bro. Good luck with that. But that's just not how life works. Let me read this comment from One Sided. They said, at age 23, I built a motorcycle from random parts for something to do this. Lots lot lost their she's if the wrong word is said. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different era that we're living in right now. Whole different era, and many of these blue collar workers are going to just completely disappear because because Gen Z has no interest. They're just pestering society with their absolute garbage. Because like I said, garbage. Like, it's a garbage generation. It's a garbage generation. I Bad people, bad people, bad people. I'm just ecstatic. I'm just feeling good though that they did pass that bill to bad TikTok. Let's check that out.
To pass a bipartisan bill that could lead to a nationwide ban of TikTok.
On this vote, the yeas are 352, the nays are 65. One present, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed. And without the objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Okay.
Lawmakers have been raising concerns about TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, warning that the app could give the Chinese government access to the data of millions of Americans, including browsing history and location. ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang joins me now, along with ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill, ABC's Elizabeth Schulze, and ABC News contributor, Google Tech Policy Fellow Mike Muse. Jay, this bill now heads to the Senate, where its fate is uncertain. What are you hearing from lawmakers about that?
Well, look, this was a very significant bipartisan vote on the House floor, 352 yay votes. That puts a lot of pressure on the Senate and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to take some kind of action on this bill because of how big that margin was. And we just saw moments ago, after this bill passed, two pretty significant members of the Senate, the chair and vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner and Marco Rubio, formally endorse this legislation. So that carries a lot of weight when you talk about trying to force Chuck Schumer, or at least push Chuck Schumer, to put this bill on the floor for a vote. Again, what's in this legislation, just to be clear, is it would seek to force a sale of TikTok from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, within 6 months if the legislation becomes law. And only if that sale does not occur could TikTok then be banned on app stores and on web hosting services and things of that.
Honestly, I think it's very possible this thing is going to get banned, because basically they've given them a loophole. They said, okay, sell it to an American company and you can save the business. But, and what a lot of you don't understand, you're like, oh, this is censorship. It's not. This is not an American company. There's nothing we can do. We cannot disprove if they have if any of that data has been shared with China. We have no way of knowing this. We have literally no way of knowing what they're doing, and they've been like saying like, "Oh, we're deleting all the information that we gathered on Americans, like the keystrokes, like all that." Like, guys, they were surveilling us. Like, TikTok was actually surveilling Americans, gathering all this data. Like, if you typed anything into your phone, it was mapping, it was logging all of your keystrokes. So why does TikTok need to have keep access to your passwords, if your messages, everything you do? Why did TikTok need to track every single thing that you did on your phone? It needed access to your contacts. It needed access to your camera. It needed access. It needed access to every aspect of your phone, every aspect of your life, your location data, every single thing. It needed to track your keystrokes so it could track everything you were typing into your phone. What were they doing with that data? Oh, we're deleting it now. We're actively working to delete that information. Why were you storing that information in the first place? And this is not an American company. Like, I mean, like, how foolish is this? And you guys are like, oh, it's censorship. We can't hold TikTok accountable. Okay, this is not an American company. We cannot hold them. And here's the thing: that when they became a company in China, they legally agreed that they would have to turn over any information that is requested by the Chinese government. So there's no way to know any of this. In theory, if they sell the company to an American company like Microsoft, like Walmart or whatever, then that would basically result in them not having that requirement anymore. And and that would at least protect us somewhat. So I think this is going to pass because it's not an immediate ban. It doesn't say, okay, well, you if we're going to ban it and there's no option. No, they can sell the company. If they refuse to sell the company, that's when there's going to be serious issues. And the great thing also is that once it falls under American jurisdiction, and we can at least there are at least some things we can do. All right, because right now it's basically a rogue. It's rogue. It's completely rogue. Let me see here. Let's see here. Awesome. Awake says, in the 90s, I was always out in the woods building tree houses, sleeping in them at night. Then the military just added to that. It's so crazy. When we were kids, and even the boomers experienced this, there was always the whole treehouse thing. Like, oh, imagine having a treehouse and you would sleep in a treehouse as a kid. Like, the idea of sleeping in a treehouse now would be completely insane. Like children hanging out in a treehouse, having their own private space, walkie talkies. That those things actually used to happen. The concept of a treehouse today is absolutely insane. And and it's crazy because kids used to build tree houses themselves, or dad will help them, or older brother would help them. But kids, can you imagine? Kids used to build boys used to build their own tree houses. I mean, women don't realize that it doesn't take a lot for men to survive. And if men get pissed off enough and just take off and go into the wilderness, like men will just basically build homes in the wilderness. Men will build homes in the wilderness. They will run solar panels. They will create septic tanks. You know, this is. I'm just being very honest. Like men will literally go into the wilderness and build entire forts out there, very nice, very livable forts, and they will have these places with running water, heated water, working toilet, you know, everything like high speed internet. You've got right now we have what do you call it? We have with SpaceX. We have internet anywhere available. We have internet through SpaceX now, so we have that. So we can have internet anywhere on Earth, and so men will just go out into the wilderness. They'll have internet out in the wilderness, and they'll just be out there chilling. They'll just be out there 100% chilling. As the world falls apart. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Pitt says tree houses were big in the early '90s. They were big long before the '90s. They were much big back in the '60s, '70s. That might be when they were the biggest. The boomers, and specifically the Gen Xers, the treehouse thing was very big for Gen Xers. Treehouse is very much a Gen X thing, very much a Gen X and older millennial thing. But yeah, it's that those were the days, man. Those were the days. Bill says, I built a treehouse for my nephew's son. He didn't even get into it. That's unfortunate. They don't take, they don't appreciate it because, they're so sheltered. They live inside. They're always on the idiot phone and idiot pads. You know. Oh boy. So United States IRE says the U.S. politicians hate that they cannot restrict people's freedom of speech on TikTok. This is an argument that you make, but here's the problem: TikTok, TikTok actually does restrict a lot of freedom of speech. A lot of people are deleted on TikTok. This is a terrible argument. A lot of freedom of speech is actually controlled on TikTok. That's a crazy argument. Has deleted lots of people. The TikTok is a censored platform. TikTok is not a freedom of speech platform. Okay? I'm just being very, very clear on that. It's a corrupt platform. Say the wrong thing on TikTok, they get rid of you very, very quickly. So this notion is absolute trash. That the politicians, they just want to control speech on TikTok. Bro, TikTok is not a free speech platform. They are happy to remove your account. You know, Mocho says, "Hola, señor. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes." I don't really know where you are. Oh, maybe you're in Mexico. Buenas noches. But let me see here. Let me see here. Desmond says, "At the jar of the flies." Oh boy. Oh boy. Me Tarzan, you Jane. Looking through some of the comments here. Looking through some of the comments. Let's listen to some more this TikTok crap.
Is calling this legislation a ban. Champions of this legislation, again, Republicans and Democrats alike, are saying that this is a forced sale, and only if ByteDance doesn't act, if this becomes law, could the app be banned.
So, Elizabeth, what's the likelihood here that ByteDance does sell?
Well, and this is going to be the question is, A, does it pass the Senate? Does this legislation get through Congress ultimately? And then B, can this get through the legal hurdles for China to allow the sale to happen? That's an outstanding question. And then what would that actually look like, Diane? We haven't really seen this kind of a sale that's been forced from the U.S. In the past, there have been instances where the government has said a Chinese company needs to cut ties, but that's been a complete sale of the company. What we're talking about here is really just the U.S. business splitting off from the Chinese owner, ByteDance. And that raises a whole host of questions. What the law itself would look like if it does go into effect is that the app would no longer be available on the App Store or on Google Play. Eventually, that would make it impossible for users to use. You couldn't keep updating the app like you would need to, and it wouldn't be available on websites. But this is undoubtedly going to raise some questions about free speech. We have seen the small amount of lawmakers who voted against it today say this has the First Amendment questions that have been raised. We've seen that already raised in courts. So questions about what happens in Congress and then what happens from there in the legal process, too.
And Selena, President Biden's campaign joined TikTok last month, but then on Friday he said he would sign a bill to ban TikTok if it did pass. How is the White House addressing what appears to be some mixed messaging there?
Yeah, Diane, I mean, the White House really struggles to answer that question. Just yesterday, I said, if the president's so concerned about the national security risks, why is his campaign posting on it? But look, the White House also trying to frame this, as you heard what Jay and Elizabeth say, saying it's not an outright ban. It would force a sale. But the reality is it would face a lot of legal challenges if it got through the Senate, was signed by the president, and China would likely block it because it would need the Chinese government's approval. And Diane, we've been in this exact place before throughout the year.
Now, think about this. The Chinese government would likely block it. The Chinese government would block the sale of just the American branch of TikTok. Keep in mind, TikTok has multiple branches around the world. So, for example, they operate in Europe. They operate in multiple different countries. They operate in Canada. This would just be them forcing TikTok to sell the American branch. They could still operate TikTok, independently in all the other regions of the world, but they just could not do it in the United States anymore. What? Think about that carefully. So it very well, and China, like you pointed out, China may block the sale, and as a result of that, then TikTok very well could be banned in the United States entirely. And if China blocks the sale, that's going to say a lot about the United States. Like, why is China blocking the sale? What does China not want us to know? Think about that very, very carefully. Someone said that, TikTok only bans, people who are disrobed and bad words. That's absolute lies. That's absolute crap. Okay, TikTok bans political stuff. They ban things that they don't like. They ban they ban information that they're against. TikTok is a garbage platform. Total garbage platform. Trash. Total trash. And I'm looking forward to its ban. Jeff says, I'm Gen X. During early 80s, my freshman year of high school, the guys would go there to drink beer, smoke weed, and view the dude stash of illicit magazines. Guys, those were good days, man. Those were good days. And the great thing is, like, you were not constantly being bombarded with garbage. Like, you open up your phone and you have some instant thought all over your feed, and it's like no matter what you do, you can't get away from that. It's just absolute. It's disgusting. And the thing is, like, these instant thoughts, like, the kinds of clothing that they wear and stuff, you're not even and the filters that they're using, you're not even seeing what they actually even look like. Because the moment all of that comes off, these are people like you wouldn't even want to be alone for 5 minutes with Ugly Betty. Like literally Ugly Betty. Let me check this out here. Uh, Again, TikTok's a garbage platform. TikTok's a garbage platform. It's a trash platform. Awake says, I'm an old man, 35. Dude, it's funny. The baldy had me on you. It's like the thing about a baldy is that it can make you look younger, but then it can also make you look older. If you're older, a baldy can make you look younger. But if you're younger, a baldy can make you look older. That's the crazy thing about having a baldy. Let me see here. Let's see here. Someone said something called bandits, band. Let me see here. Lord of the Flies.
To force a sale on TikTok, and it just didn't work. But after that 2020 attempt from Donald Trump to get it banned, China actually changed its regulations so that it actually bars the export of certain technologies, including technologies like the algorithm that underpins TikTok. So the question of where it goes from here could be a long road ahead. And Diane, to set this into context, this is really just the latest shoe to drop in the broader U.S.-China technology Cold War, the effort to try and split off sensitive technologies from each other. The U.S. has banned giant Huawei telecommunications firm from the United States, but to move into the arena of apps and software behind export controls on chips and telecommunications, that would have a sweeping effect because there are many Chinese companies that are influential in the software space in the United States.
So, Mike, what are you watching for as this bill now heads to the Senate?
So many things, but Diane, this is a dream team panel. I'm so excited for this conversation. In particular, I want to give attribution to Selena's excellent reporting. She mentioned in our other break something that really underscores the frustration that I have with this bill and with this Congress. She mentioned the Chinese app Temu and Shein. Temu was one of the largest advertisers for commercials during the Super Bowl that averaged over 120 million views. Temu had an ad in almost every single quarter of it, to which it became a trending topic on social media of how much money Temu has to keep marketing to us. Temu is a marketplace-based app where lots of U.S. customers go on and buy products. And when they're buying the products, they're putting our credit card information down, their home address, telephone numbers, our whereabouts. And it's also, too, the algorithm is reading our consumer pattern behaviors. And there's already so much apps in that Chinese owns that can get so much access to our data, which underscores the performative nature of Congress that makes Americans so frustrated that Congress isn't doing the difficult task of understanding the nuance of how these social media platforms actually work.
They're getting way too much data on us, and TikTok is definitely getting too much data. People are like, oh, TikTok was the only place where you could share certain information when things were happening in 2020. Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but here's the thing. We have X now, So many of y'all are like, oh, we need TikTok for freedom of speech. Bro, there's X. Elon owns X. You can pretty much, I'm not saying you can do anything on X, but you can do a lot of things on X, you can do a lot of things on X. So people are crying about freedom of speech. That's absolute BS. And evidently they're saying, I've read that Elon is actually trying to rush to bring back Vine, which would be huge because if you ban TikTok and Vine comes back, it's very possible that Vine would take the because Vine was before TikTok. Vine was huge, and I don't know if it was the algorithm or what happened, and it died off. But Vine could make a huge comeback. I would love to use Vine again, and it's something that millennials really enjoyed before TikTok came around. And it could be, and for Vine would being owned by Elon, there would be plenty of freedom of speech on Vine, more freedom of speech on Vine probably than on TikTok. So and it's an American company. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's just that the Gen Zidiots want to have it their way, and they're not going to have it their way. But I hope it gets banned. I really do. Really hope. Well, someone said that Undead Chronicle gets suspended often. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. There's also Rumble. That's another point. Rumble is a great platform as well. Let's keep watching. Let's keep watching. Desmond says, anyone remember the Nokia phone? The phone that never broke, bro. Those phones were amazing. It's amazing. It's crazy when you look at these crap phones today and how bad they are. Do you remember like Nokia phone that like lasted forever? Like you wouldn't have to charge it for 2 days. You could drop it on concrete, just pick that bad boy up, put it right back in your pocket. That thing was a brick. It was a beast. That was a beast of a phone. And remember how pretty the Razor was? Like you used to walk around with the Razor. If you had a Razor, you were someone. Just flip that bad boy open, like, hey, what's up? How's it going, bro? Or like, hey, baby girl, how you doing? Oh my gosh, I know that was cringe. Let's keep. Gabby says that China won't sell TikTok. That's why I said they probably won't. And if that's the case, thank God that it will get banned entirely. And as they pointed out, in the reporting, if it, eventually it'll stop working because it needs updates. This thing needs to be updated on a regular basis. So eventually it'll start to fall apart, and the Gen Zers will have to, they'll have to go somewhere else because it's going to be blocked from the App Store. It'll fall apart pretty quickly. And then here's another very important thing to remember. How do we sign into TikTok? How do most people sign into TikTok? Because most people who are signing into TikTok right now, I suspect, are signing in using their Gmail account. So that's another huge thing. Right, I would assume that instantly Gmail would probably no longer be, your Google account would no longer be compatible with TikTok. So you wouldn't be able to just sign into TikTok anymore. So right then and there, like that would just block a lot of users from having access to it. So they would have to go and then re-sign up, create an entirely other account. So they would lose access to their accounts. They would lose access to their accounts just like that. There's a bunch of different ways that this could go down. United States says, stop thinking narrow-minded. TikTok is so much more than Gen Z people and women who are kind of not very nice. I mean, listen, I hear what you're saying, but it's a garbage platform. It's a garbage platform, and it needs to go away. It's time. It's time. Like Gen Z, it needs to go away. It's time. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. Like Gen Z, it's time for it to go. It's time for it to go. So Awake said Elon Musk will buy an American version of TikTok. I do think this is possible. TikTok is worth a ton. What is TikTok? What is TikTok worth? So we can look that up. So as of 2024, TikTok is estimated to be worth about $50 billion. TikTok's parent company ByteDance is estimated to be worth $275 billion. So the app itself is only worth about $50 billion. And then that's probably taking into consideration on a global scale. So we're looking at it like, on a global scale, like how much does TikTok worth globally? Maybe around $50 billion. So if TikTok were to be sold, in the United States, whoever buys it is not going to, many of them are not going to spend $50 billion. They don't have to. But I mean, $50 billion, just to be clear though, is still a drop in the bucket for many. And if like I could literally see Elon just stepping up and saying, offering $20 billion for TikTok, 20 or $20 billion for TikTok, or or it doesn't have to be Elon. They're like Walmart at one point talked about buying TikTok, and for Walmart, $50 billion is not crazy. Like there's a lot of companies in America that would buy TikTok for 50 billion. Facebook, Facebook is now worth over $1 trillion. This is something you guys need to understand. Facebook is now $1 trillion company. There's a bunch of companies that could buy TikTok. Apple could buy TikTok with its pocket money right now. Literally, it's pocket money. Pocket money. Apple could buy TikTok with its pocket money. Microsoft could buy TikTok with its pocket money. Facebook could buy TikTok. Will they? I don't know. Facebook could buy TikTok. Okay, it's very Google. It's a question mark. It's a big question mark. But Google could also buy TikTok. There are so many companies right now. Other and out, Walmart could buy TikTok. Okay, Target. I don't know if Target could buy Disney. Disney is in a crunch for cash right now. If you went back a couple of years ago, the possibility of Disney buying TikTok was there, maybe, but right now it's looking like Disney could get bought themselves because they've lost almost like half of their value. They've went from like being like a 400, $500 billion company to like a 200, $100 billion company. Glossy says Gen Z consumes the most happy pills and becomes really stuck on things, illicit substances later on. They're good for nothings. They're good for nothings. They won't last very long. Tarabase says that Nvidia could do it with ease. Nvidia is worth something like, I forget if it's like almost 2 billion or $2 billion right now. I think Nvidia is actually worth about $2 billion or over $2 billion now. So that's another thing. Yeah, Nvidia could buy TikTok. So that's it. But again, the biggest problem is the sale of TikTok. China very well may not authorize the sale of TikTok, and so it may just end up getting banned entirely. The Mighty Hunter said Instagram is similar to TikTok. That's actually true. And that's something that Trump and I think maybe even Musk pointed out, that if TikTok gets banned, that's only going to help Zuckerberg, because then basically, yeah, all the idiots would then have to transition over to Instagram. So they would begin watching all their shorts on Instagram and Instagram Shorts, which, yeah. So Facebook wouldn't even have to buy TikTok. They would just have to wait for it to die. You know. Elon is right now is worth 196 billion, but he's actually set to be the world's first trillionaire. So the value of Tesla is expected to skyrocket in coming years. They thought that it could happen by this year or even next year. It was estimated that he would have become a trillionaire possibly even this year. It hasn't happened yet, but it's very possible. It's very likely. It's going to happen over the next couple of years, maybe. And then there's SpaceX. No one knows what the actual value of SpaceX is right now. They're giving it like an estimate of $100 billion, but the fact that SpaceX has like internet available anywhere in the globe, they're building out rockets rapidly, and it takes Elon much longer very often to roll out the things that he promises. He's like, oh, it'll be out in 2 years, 5 years later. But the thing is that once they start going, like once we start moving rockets to Mars, ships to Mars, and the production gets moving along, you're going to have people living on Mars. You're going to have people mining Mars and looking around what resources are on Mars. And that's going to become an entire industry in and of itself. And Elon has literally said, there's like this whole thing that no one can own a planet. Like, like the government says that you cannot own your own planet. But Elon has basically said that when you go to Mars, you basically sign a document saying that, you agree that the U.S. has no rights outside of Earth. And what are they really going to do? How are they going to enforce the rules? Like, oh, we're going to govern what's happening on Mars. How? Well, we can ban you from going to Mars, and we can ban you from coming back from Mars. Yeah, you can. So what you're going to do? Ban the entire space program? Shit. Yeah, guys, I know that kind of pissed you off. You're like, what the heck happened? Angry just stopped speaking for a while. Yeah, I just yeah, my computer decided to be a girl, and it was like, no, we're gonna freeze up on you. I have what ended up happening is I have my M1, but then I also picked up a 2013 MacBook Air, and then I had to get some of it repaired, so I took it to a place to get it repaired, and after they did repair work on it, I started having problems. And the worst part is, like, I didn't pay a lot for it. I got it off eBay literally by accident. But the problem is that now I'm having some issues with it. It's beginning to freeze up on me whenever I'm doing live streams. And and then and there are other issues with restarting it. And then, like, whenever you bring it somewhere and they fix it and it's time to repair it, they begin to, like, this dude is essentially just threatening me that he's going, like, if he fixes it, he's going to mess up, like, screw around with the OS and all kinds of stuff. So basically, they don't want to fix what they break, and it cost. And then, like, for me to put more money into it, it's like I've already spent, like, I got it for like $130 off eBay, and I wasn't even supposed to get this. The guy sent me the wrong thing, but I was like, holy cow, this is a MacBook Pro. And the guy was like, I was like, holy cow, it's just much better having a larger device. So I kept it. I updated the OS, put it on the most recent version of the OS, and it was working well. But there was an issue with the speakers. The speakers were garbage. And then after I replaced the speakers on it, after I replaced the speakers on it, and guys, just let me know if you're hearing me okay in the chat. Just say, like, I hear you, Angry. I hear you. After I replaced the speakers on it, what ended up happening was I replaced the speakers and I replaced the battery. And started getting errors on it. Like, oh, so it's like it could be the OS or it could be the hardware. And when I checked the error codes, it was suggesting that there's something wrong with the hardware. And then so it's like I could take it back to the place where I got it, and I could have them work on it, and I could spend more money on fixing it, or I could take it to a new guy. I spoke to someone else, and I can have them work on it and spend a couple $100. And at this point, I'll have lost anywhere from $500 to $800, or I could just spend, or I could just buy just buy a new MacBook Pro entirely. So I'm just gonna buy an entirely new MacBook Pro. There's a saying on YouTube: buy it nice or buy it twice. When I picked up my MacBook Air, like, I picked up an M1 Air, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. The problem is that after using a Pro, I cannot go back to the Air. I can't go back to the Air because it's only 13-inch. If it was larger, if it was a 15-inch, I would be fine with that. But I would be absolutely fine with that. But and I get but if but because it's not a 15-inch or a 16-inch, it's just much more difficult to use. It's like, the keyboard is just, I like the keyboard is much better. It's more spacious on the Pro. The screen is much larger. I'm getting older now. I'm almost 41. I'll be 41 in a couple of months. I have to wear reading glasses. So to go back to a much smaller screen, much smaller keyboard, I just can't do it. And this is my, it's like, I learned my lesson. Like, this is my tool. This is like, my laptop is my tool. These are the tools of my trade. So I'm probably gonna pick up I already looked it up. I'm gonna pick up an M1 MacBook Pro, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive. The M3s just came out, but to get something with similar specs, it would cost like around $3,000 or over $3,000. The saying is buy it nice, buy it twice. But I saw the reviews already, and evidently the M1s they stack up very well against the new M3s. So I'm gonna pick up an M3 for just under 2,000, M1 for just under $2,000. And 16, I think it's actually a 16-inch on the Pro. Pick up one of those, and that should actually That should help to change things up. Chris said Gen Z Hunger Games. I was absolutely thinking that. I was thinking about the whole Gen Z Hunger Games thing. I think that would actually be pretty damn awesome. Like literally put Gen Z in a Hunger Games situation, battle royale style, and we'll see who comes out. You know, because they're not good people. They're not good people. They need to be humbled. So Scully said digital ghettos. The digital ghetto. Meet us at the crosswalk, crosswalk, crosswalk. Right? Y'all remember Bone Thugs and Harmony? Like they used to have some really meaningful stuff back in the days, back in the old days. Oh gosh, oh gosh. There's this dude on YouTube who makes like these crazy videos just like messing with people. There's a lot of people like that, but I should look up his videos. His name is like Wise7 or something. The man trying to keep Pitt said the man was trying to keep angry down. Dude, it's just my bad laptop. Yeah, Normatic says that sounds like your hardware is outdated. The software is not compatible with the older hardware. The processing will lag more. I would suggest buying a whole new laptop. I bought bought a $1,500 HP Victa 16. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, bro. You're absolutely right. 150% right. Yeah, like I'm literally trying, and it's like it's not good. It's not good because this is how I make my money. ZZ says you're 41 then. You and I are Gen X. Yeah, we are the exact. It's a straight like we're Zennials, but yeah, we are technically Gen X. Really are Gen Xers. Awake says 50 billion would be nothing to Elon. He'd make 50 billion in the next few months. The biggest problem I think Elon would face with purchasing TikTok would be the fact that if you look at what advertisers have done with Twitter or with X and how they've pulled back. They don't want to spend money on it anymore. They could do the exact same thing if Elon were to purchase TikTok. Me personally, I'm hoping that no one purchases it. I'm hoping that China blocks it because I want it to actually die. I want TikTok to actually die. You know, because it's going to hurt Gen Z, and anything that hurts Gen Z is a good thing to me. Nomadic says the HP Victus 16 has a 4060 RTX, 2 terabyte SSD, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. This is a VR laptop. So I've said this already. I will not go back to Windows. I'm done with Windows. Like I don't even want to use a Windows laptop. Like I'm just being very honest. I don't want to use a Windows laptop. I don't want to see one. I don't want to. I don't want one near me. I'm done with Windows because the amount of productivity, the things I can do on my Mac, like I don't have to have like a billion different things to like. Oh, if I want to watch a video, if I want to record a video, if I want to take a screenshot, if I want to record my screen, all of that is built into my Mac. I take screenshots of your comments, and I can actually just I can actually copy the text in this in pictures and images on my Mac. I can just use swingers. I can use 3 fingers to swipe right, swipe left, and just jump to different screens, so I can be on my desktop one very quickly. I mean, the ease of use is just so much better. The layout is just so much better. The animations are just so much better. You purchase a Mac. When you purchase a Mac, it is such a power horse that you have as a creator, you get access to all of these amazing tools right off the bat. You get access to video editing software. I forgot the name of it, but you get access to a free video editor right off the bat, which will allow you to actually begin editing your videos. I mean, if you want to end up upgrading to Final Cut, you can do that later on, but you get access to a great video editor for free on your Mac. Okay, and then you can move from there. There's just so many things that you get with Mac. So I'm a big Mac. It's not perfect, but oh god, it's so much better than Windows. And then the viruses, it's so easy for you to get a virus on Windows, while on Mac, it's you can get a virus on Mac, but it's a lot more difficult. There's a reason why all the YouTubers, you see them using Macs. Okay, it just makes 100% more sense. Always makes more sense. Let's see here. ZC says, I heard that TikTok is owned by the CCP, China, and that's where they're getting their information. Guys, it's a very serious thing. It's very serious. Gabby says, if TikTok dies, where do the narcissists go? Hopefully to hell. Hopefully to hell. Hopefully to hell, because they're horrible people. So there's a place for them called hell, and they need to go there and stay there and not come back. They need to stop tormenting us. They need to stop tormenting us. And, Gen Z needs to stop tormenting us. And they need to go with TikTok. When TikTok goes, the Gen Zers need to go as well. They've been here long enough, and it's time for them to go. Gen Z, if you're listening, it's time. You've been here long enough, Gen Z. This is not a game. You've been here. You've had your fun. It's time to go, Gen Z. It's time to move on. It's time for you to go to hell. It's time for you to go to hell. Guys, did you enjoy this stream? Did you guys enjoy the stream? I enjoyed doing the stream for you. It's a lot of fun. Guys, go and subscribe. Go and subscribe to my Angry channel. There's a link to it in the description of the video. I discuss gaming, anime, geek stuff, and nerd stuff, real world stuff, and whatever else interests me. I have a lot of groovy interest, so go and check that out, because I put a lot of great stuff on there that would not go on this channel. I'm going to be doing sci-fi stuff over there, talking about my, like if I like Star Trek Picard. Picard third season was pretty good. The other two seasons were woke, so they were not good at all. But I cover a lot over there, so go and check that out. Yeah, Gen Z is passing away. No one seems to care why, because no one likes these people. It's time for them to go. I mean, it's time. It's time. I want to know your thoughts on everything we discussed here, so let's talk about it in the comments. I hope you guys really enjoyed the stream. You guys were like, oh, someone said you need to do more streams. I know I need to do more streams, but I need to also pick up a new laptop first, because this is not going to work. I need to pick up a new laptop. TikTok is, Mighty says TikTok is the best propaganda tool. It is an app. It is 100% a propaganda tool. It is 100% a propaganda tool. Spike says, yeah, really, really don't care. Yeah, no one cares. No one cares. They're terrible people. Terrible people. They've lived short lives, but they've created so much anarchy in that short period of time. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA. Been walking away. And cheers.